ఈరోజు వెబినార్ సెషన్ లాంగ్వేజ్ పెడగాజీ అనే అంశం పైన ఉంటుంది. ఈ సెషన్కి ఆర్పీగా శ్రీ శశాంక్ పరిమి గారు వ్యవహరిస్తారు. శశాంక్ పరిమి గారు టీమ్ లీడర్గా టాటా ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ ఆఫ్ సోషల్ సైన్స్ నందలి సెంటర్ ఫర్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్నోవేషన్ అండ్ యాక్షన్ రీసెర్చ్ విభాగంలో పనిచేయుచున్నారు. శశాంక్ పరిమి గారు టీచర్ ప్రొఫెషనల్ డెవలప్మెంట్ అండ్ రీస్ట్రెంథనింగ్ ఆఫ్ డైట్ అనే అంశంపై యూనిసెఫ్ మరియు గవర్నమెంట్ ఆఫ్ ఛత్తీస్గఢ్ తో కలిసి పనిచేశారు. అలాగే డైట్ ఫ్యాకల్టీ మరియు టీచర్స్ కొరకు వివిధ రకాలైనటువంటి కెపాసిటీ బిల్డింగ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ ను రూపొందించి నిర్వహించడం కూడా జరిగింది. లాంగ్వేజ్ డెవలప్మెంట్ పై మధ్యప్రదేశ్ గవర్నమెంట్ తోను, అలాగే ట్రైబల్ మైగ్రేషన్ పై భూపాల్ గవర్నమెంట్ తోటి కలిసి పనిచేసినటువంటి అనుభవం కూడా ఉంది. ప్రస్తుతము క్లిక్స్ అనే ప్రోగ్రామ్ తో ఎస్సీఆర్టీతో అసోసియేట్ అయినారు. అలాగే ఈరోజు ప్యానల్ మెంబర్స్ గా శ్రీ ఎస్ ముండయ్య గారు డైట్ కరీంనగర్ నుండి, అలాగే శ్రీ కె బాలమురళి గారు డైట్ ఖమ్మం నుండి, శ్రీమతి త్రివేణి గారు ఎస్సీఆర్టీ నుండి వ్యవహరిస్తారు. సాంకేతిక సహాయకులుగా విద్యాసాగర్ గారు ఎంపీ యూపీఎస్ చోర్పల్లి ఆసిఫాబాద్ మండల్ కొమరం భీం డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ నుంచి వ్యవహరిస్తారు. నౌ ఐ రిక్వెస్ట్ Shashank Parmi garu to take webinar session. Shashank garu, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'll just share my screen first. Okay. So, language pedagogy gurinchi mano maatladte, language pedagogy is a very broad aspect, is a very broad topic, and so dantlo manamu ippudu exactly ivala edaithe topic gurinchi ee session lo maatladtamo, that is mostly about language and society. And దీంట్లో మనం ఏం కవర్ చేస్తామంటే it's mostly related to when దీంట్లో we'll try to understand primary discourse and secondary discourse. So in general స్టూడెంట్స్ ఎప్పుడైతే ప్రైమరీ స్కూల్స్కి వస్తారో వాళ్ళు ఒక జనరల్ వరల్డ్ వ్యూ, ఇంకా జనరల్ ఒక వాళ్ళ నాలెడ్జ్ ఏదైతే వాళ్ళు ప్రైమరీ డిస్కోర్స్లో నేర్చుకుంటారో దాన్ని తీసుకొని వస్తారు. అండ్ ఆ ఇన్ఫార్మల్ సెట్టింగ్ నుంచి ఒక స్కూల్ అనే ఫార్మల్ సెట్టింగ్లోకి వస్తారు. సో ఈ వెబినార్లో విల్ జస్ట్ ట్రై టు అండర్స్టాండ్ అండ్ అనలైజ్ హౌ ఈ ప్రైమరీ డిస్కోర్స్ షేప్స్ ద చైల్డ్ and how it prepares them for the formal setting, or whether it does or whether it doesn't. So dan meeda manam koncham discuss chestamu. So okay, so aaj ke webinar mein jab hum language ke bare mein baat karte hain तो language pedagogy is a मतलब एक बहुत बड़ा और बहुत वास्ट टॉपिक है, और इस टॉपिक में बहुत सारे स्ट्रैंड्स हैं जिनमें हम जिन जो कवर होते हैं, और बहुत वास्ट लेंथ तक जा सकते हैं हम. बट लेकिन आज के वेबिनार में जो हम बात करेंगे वो लैंग्वेज एंड सोसाइटी के बारे में बात करेंगे, जहाँ पर दो मेन एस्पेक्ट्स हैं. एक बच्चे का प्राइमरी डिस्कोर्स और दूसरा सेकेंडरी डिस्कोर्स. प्राइमरी डिस्कोर्स वो है जब से वो पैदा होता है तब से लेके स्कूल जब तक प्राइमरी फर्स्ट स्टैंडर्ड में नहीं आता तब तक एक लर्निंग होती है कम्युनिटी में, एंड देन उसके बाद जब वो एक फॉर्मल सेटिंग में आता है देन एक अलग सेटिंग होती है. So okay, so then moving on, so okay, so ఇది సో దీంట్లో కంప్లీట్గా చెప్పాలంటే ద బెస్ట్ థియరీ ఏదైతే దీన్ని డిస్క్రైబ్ చేస్తుందో అది ఒక బ్రాన్ఫెన్ బ్రెనర్ అని, దెర్ ఈస్ అ psychologist. He is Russian born, but he is an American now. He came up with this ecological system theory, in which it is more related to early childhood education. But I will try to build today's session based on this, and and then we'll try to understand the perspective of language and how it is, how to take that into account when they are in the class, because language is not just about the language subject. It is there for all the subjects, be it math, science, EVS or any other. So సో దాని మీద ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఈ డయాగ్రామ్ ని కొంచెం చూస్తే, దీంట్లో మీరు చూస్తున్నారు, ఇన్ ద మిడిల్ ఆఫ్ ఇట్ there is the child, and then there you can see that there is this microsystem which is the child's immediate environment, and then there is a mesosystem, then the exosystem, then the macrosystem, and then the chronosystem. In the next slide I will just unpack this a bit more, and we'll just see what does this exactly mean. So okay, so जो अभी आप ये जो आप डायग्राम देख रहे हैं ब्रॉन्फ्रेम वेनर इकोलॉजिकल सिस्टम थ्योरी का, तो इसमें ये 5 सिस्टम के बारे में बात करते हैं जो एक चाइल्ड को अफेक्ट करता है. तो एक तो है माइक्रो, एक है मीजो, एक है एक्सो, एक है मैक्रो और एक है क्रोनो. So how all this this is the system that affects a child in its development and learning. So next slide lo manam deen gurinchi inkoncham unpack cheddam. Okay, so ippudu meer chuste this previous danni nenu koncham unpack chesanu ikkada, and meer chustunnaru that a child is in the center, and the immediate microsystem for the child while growing up is the household, immediate family and the community. ఎందుకంటే మనకి ఇండియాలో మనం చూస్తాము, అన్లైక్ వెస్టర్న్ కంట్రీస్, వెన్ అ చైల్డ్ ఈస్ గ్రోయింగ్ అప్, కమ్యూనిటీ ఇన్వాల్వ్మెంట్ అనేది చాలా చాలా ఉంటుంది. అండ్ దెన్ ఏ కమ్యూనిటీలో ఉన్నారు, వాళ్ళ ఇంటరాక్షన్స్ విత్ నేబర్స్ అండ్ ఆల్, దట్ ఈస్ ఆల్సో really very potent when the child is growing up. But it's not its immediate microsystem, but it is more in the mesosystem. That is మన ఇక్కడ కిన్షిప్ అండ్ ఇన్ఫార్మల్ నెట్వర్క్స్ లో ఏదైతే ఉందో. సో దీంట్లో ఏమవుతుందంటే, ఇప్పుడు మనం చూస్తే ఇండియన్ కంటెక్స్ట్ లో దిస్ ఇమీడియట్ ఫ్యామిలీ అండ్ ఇన్ఫార్మల్ నెట్వర్క్స్ లో చాలా there is a very thin line, and in general it overlaps once the child is old enough. And also ఈ మొత్తం సిస్టమ్ లో స్కూల్ ఎక్కడ వస్తుందంటే, స్కూల్ ఆల్సో కమ్స్ ఇన్ బిట్వీన్ because it becomes a really integral part of it, and the child spends almost 7 to 8 hours there. So it also is somewhere in between the micro and the meso system. అంటే immediate family ఇంకా informal network మధ్యలో ఉంటుంది. So that is something we need to just keep in mind, and then it goes on. So this is what Bronfman Renner said, but కొంచెం మన ఇండియా కంటెక్స్ట్ లో వస్తే this changes a bit. Okay, so ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తామంటే, I'll just show you a language. I'll just show you a video, and a video was taken by Professor Maxine Bernstein. She's an American scholar who is for the last 2-3 decades working in India with in early literacy. And I'd really like take this opportunity to thank her for the knowledge that she has shared with me and the resources that she has shared with me. So I'll just play. So if anybody can just let me know whether they can hear it or not. So can you hear the audio? Anyone? Okay. Then
yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll just play then. Please look at the video. Actually, the మరాఠీలో ఉంటుంది వీడియో, ఎందుకంటే దీన్ని ఒక రూరల్ మహారాష్ట్రలో తీశారు. అండ్ ఫల్టన్ అనే ఊరు దగ్గర ఉండేది. సో జస్ట్ ప్లీజ్ లుక్ అట్ ఇట్ అండ్ అబ్జర్వ్. విల్ దెన్ టేక్ ఆన్ a few activities based on this. Yeah.
मूल आपली भाषा समजायला लागतं, वापरायला शिकतं, हा एक अद्भुत चमत्कार आहे. भाषा शिकण्याची प्रक्रिया सर्वत्र होत असली तरी देश, संस्कृती व काळानुसार तपशिलात फरक पडतो. या फिल्ममध्ये भाषेच्या विकासाची जी झलक दाखवली आहे ती पश्चिम महाराष्ट्रातल्या कोरडवाहू भागातल्या एका वस्तीवरची आहे. इथल्या मुलांचा प्रत्येक अनुभव म्हणजे एक गोष्ट आहे. अशा गोष्टींमधून मूल आपल्या लहानशा जगाचा नकाशा आपल्या मनात तयार करत असतो. जन्मापासून मूल भाषेमध्ये न्हावून निघत असतं. भाषा म्हणजे केवळ शब्द नव्हे, तर त्यात स्पर्श व नजरेची भाषाही येते. खेळ, भांडण यासारख्या दैनंदिन अनुभवांमधूनही मूल आपली भाषा शिकतं. हे सारे अनुभव घेत घेत मूल आपल्या छोट्या जगात सक्षमपणे वावरायला शिकतं आणि आपल्या अनुभवांचं कथन करायलाही शिकतं. म्हणजेच मूल आपली भाषा आत्मसात करतं.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you can watch this video. It's available on YouTube. So basically, you have observed the whole video. So మీరు అంతా ఈ వీడియో చూసారు కొంచెం, అండ్ దీంట్లో చాలా instances ఉన్నాయి, and इसमें बहुत सारे instance थे जिसमें बहुत कुछ हो रहा था, और and the child was learning a lot. So basically, so these the following slides will be a few questions to you that you can actually think about and try to answer. Either you can answer now or you can answer later on, that is up to you, but I want you to think about it. So basically, you can, if you look at this particular scene where a father was actually trying to communicate with non-verbal forms of communication. So in general, uh, if you observe a child, in your community, in your neighborhood, you can also look at a lot of non-verbal forms of communication happen. So I want you to go back and think about what are the other kind of non-verbal form of communication, and then you can just find that out. Yeah. So here also in this scene, you can just see, and in general, you can analyze like the young children, because basically they are children who are not yet going to school, and you can they're in a very informal setting, so you can see like who all do they interact with. And also if you look at this particular part of the video where this whole communication is happening, so the question here is how do you think the child understands the intentions and words of his grandmother, and other what kind of verbal exchanges in general happen between young children and adults. So basically, why I am focusing on this is that uh, the children have a plethora of experiences when they are coming to a formal setting such as school. So we, as teachers, we also need to think about all this primary discourse that is happening, and then when they come into their secondary discourse, that is the school, and how does it affect both worlds. So that is something we need to think on. Yeah, same here. You can just also analyze this in a way like what is happening here. And this is also shows a perfect example of apprenticeship and community learning, of what is the child learning here with with his peers or his adults, or just bigger children. Yeah, so these are a few important questions that we need to ponder upon, and then take in account before going forward. Yeah. So you can just see that how another few important questions that we need to ask ourselves is the child being prepared for schooling through these experiences, and how is this apprenticeship in language learning different from like your own experience. For example, if at here, if I want to give my example, that even though I was born I was born in Hyderabad, but mostly I grew up in the north. So then again, the language of my home was Telugu, and then the language outside was Hindi, and then the language in my school was English. So but as you can see, like I have no shame in admitting that the formal language of the school took over my uh, uh, the language of my home and the language of my community. So it is there. So I mean, but what we need to do is we need to find a balance among all the three. So yeah. So and then what I want so then after this we can just look at the nature of language. So if you can see, the nature of language is there are the three main parts that we need to focus on when it comes to mostly in the primary and the elementary level. Is that in general, like uh, communication, culture, and cognition go hand in hand, and the process of language that is happening is very complex and dense because they are learning since their birth, and also they're hearing and the significance of stories is also a part that is really very potent, because over the time they hear stories and then they make a representation of the world. So that is also a part that need to be taken into account. Yes, so this is also a very important part that we need to really think about when we are in a formal school setting. That there is a big, like as I mentioned earlier, there is a primary discourse and then there is a secondary discourse, and this is a very challenging task of building that bridge between the primary and the secondary discourse. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is very much we can try to try to give that freedom and space for the child to express, so that we can build that bridges. So it's a two-way thing, and we can definitely do that. And the biggest problem that we face in India is that there are a lot of languages, and there are also very different types of dialects. So if we look at in Telangana context, we there is one proper Granthika Telugu, and then there is regional variances of Telugu everywhere, like at in Telangana, in Andhra, in like coastal regions, and then the Godavari region. So the Telugu is really very different across. And then one at the Karnataka border, you can find that variances everywhere. So we don't really need to outrightly reject them. We need to focus on how we can build that bridge between how we can get that informal uh, how we can get that informal setting into that formal setting. It's all about building bridges. So yeah. Yes, so also this is also a key debate that we have in when it comes to language teaching. So anyways, you can just see, like according to UNESCO, what is the definition of literacy is. And it's really a worldview of it. But when we go unpack it a bit more, so we need to also understand that it's all about reading the word and the world. So if there is a word and there is a relevance of that word in the world, so they are just labels that like for example crow or a sparrow or anything. So these are the words, but if there is no visual representation of that word, it's really difficult to learn that word or to that. So basically, George Yule actually talks about this in length in his book, The Study of Language, from where the language like how it started, and through the verbal sounds, how the whole language developed into the current form. So that is there. Yeah. So also taking this forward, these are the three main points that we need to take into account. That uh, the- uh, uh, is like in general, we just don't want the children to just read. I mean, it's really easy for to memorize a paragraph, and then we can say like, yes, the child can read. So we need to focus on how we can read with understanding. And when I say understanding, it's not comprehension, but somehow related to the primary discourse of the child. And then towards independent writing, I mean, we need to bring out the child's experiences into the classroom, and then if they are able to articulate how they can bring in their experiences onto paper, that is really helpful for them for writing. And then, as you can see in the video also, I have shown that there is the critical literacy and the critical knowledge that is being built up, that is from the beginning, since the child is born. So we need really be like how like exactly, that is very subjective, and that needs to be figured out in a particular context. But somehow it has to be given some place in a formal setting. Yeah. So okay, so before we take this session forward, there was there was an MIT researcher named Deb Roy, and he wanted to understand how his infant son learned language. So basically, he wired up his house with video cameras and everything to catch every moment. And then he had about 90,000 hours of home video. And basically, what he did was that he analyzed, he worked, and then he finally saw how his son's starting to say ga, and then it turned into water. So basically how the child started from saying from placing a label of ga to water, and then actually saying water. So we'll just see this video, because this is a really very interesting video, and then there's a lot of work that is being done. So just think there is some. Just give me a second. I think there's some technical issue.
శశాంక్ గారు ప్లీజ్, బ్లాంక్ ఉంది.
Sir, just a second, sir.
ఓకే.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Yeah, so this is a TED talk that he gave on his research. So it's really very interesting to start a debate on language learning and everything. So yeah, so
Imagine if you could, everything you said, you did, available in a perfect store at your fingertips. So you could go back, find memorable moments and revisit them, or sift through traces of time and discover patterns in your own life that previously had discovered. Well, that's exactly the journey that my family began 5.5 years ago. This is my wife, collaborator Rupal, and on this day, at this moment, we walked in the house with our first child, our beautiful baby. And we walked into the house with a very special home video recording system. Okay. This moment and thousands of other moments special for us were captured in our home because in every room in the house, if you looked up, you'd see a camera and a microphone. And if you look down, you get this bird's eye view of the room. Here's our living room, the baby bedroom, kitchen, dining room, and the rest of the house. And all of these fed into a disk array that was designed for continuous capture. So here we are flying through a day in our home as we move from sunlit morning through incandescent evening, and finally lights out for the day. Over the course of 3 years, we recorded 8 to 10 hours a day, amassing roughly 250,000 hours of multi-track audio and video. So you're looking at a piece of what is by far the largest home video collection ever made. I think that's clear. And what this data represents for our family at a personal level, the impact has already been immense, and we're still learning its value. Countless moments of unsolicited, natural moments, not posed moments, are captured there, and we're starting to learn how to discover them and find them. But there's also a scientific reason that drove this project, which was to use this kind of natural longitudinal data to understand the process of how a child learns language, that child being my son. And so with many privacy provisions put in place to protect everyone who's recorded in the data, we made elements of the data available to my trusted research team at MIT so we could start teasing apart patterns in this massive data set, trying to understand the influence of social environments on language acquisition. So we're looking here at one of the first things we started to do. This is my wife and I cooking breakfast in the kitchen. And as we move through space and through time, a very everyday pattern of life in the kitchen, in order to convert this opaque 90,000 hours of video into something we can start to see, we use motion analysis to pull out, as we move through space and through time, what we call space-time worms. And this has become a part of our toolkit for being able to look and see where the activities are in the data, and with it, trace the patterns of, in particular, where my son moved throughout the home, so that we could focus our transcription efforts, all the speech environment around my son, all the words that he heard from myself, my wife, our nanny, and over time, the words he began to produce. So with that technology and that data and the ability to, with machine assistance, transcribe speech, we've now transcribed well over 7 million words of our home transcripts. And with that, let me take you now for a first tour into the data. So you've all, I'm sure, seen time-lapse videos where a flower will blossom as you accelerate time. I'd like you to now experience the blossoming of a speech form. My son, soon after his first birthday, would say gaga to mean water. And over the course of the next half year, he slowly learned to approximate the proper adult form, water. So we're going to cruise through half a year in about 40 seconds. No video here, so you can focus on the sound, the acoustics of a new kind of trajectory. Gaga to water. Yes. He sure nailed it, didn't he? So he didn't just learn water. Over the course of the 24 months, the first 2 years that we really focused on, this is a map of every word he learned in chronological order. And because we have full transcripts, we've identified each of the 503 words that he learned to produce by his second birthday. He was an early talker. And so we started to analyze why. Why were certain words born before others? This is one of the first results that came out of our study a little over a year ago that really surprised us. The way to interpret this apparently simple graph is on the vertical is an indication of how complex caregiver utterances are based on the length of utterances. And the vertical axis is time. And all of the data we aligned based on the following idea. Every time my son would learn a word, we would trace back and look at all of the language he heard that contained that word. And we would plot the relative length of the utterances. And what we found was this curious phenomena that caregiver speech would systematically dip to a minimum, making language as simple as possible, and then slowly ascend back up in complexity. And the amazing thing was that that bounce, that dip, lined up almost precisely with when each word was born, word after word, systematically. So it appears that all three primary caregivers, myself, my wife, and our nanny, were systematically, and I would think subconsciously, restructuring our language to meet him at the moment of the birth of a word and bring him gently into more complex language. And the implications of this, there are many, but one I just want to point out is that there must be amazing feedback loops. It's not, of course, my son is learning from his linguistic environment, but the environment is learning from him. That environment, people, are in these tight feedback loops and creating a kind of scaffolding that has not been noticed until now. But that's looking at the speech context. What about the visual context? We're now looking at, think of this as a dollhouse cutaway of our house. We've taken those circular fisheye lens cameras and we've done some optical correction, and then we can bring it into three-dimensional life. So welcome to my home. This is a moment, one moment captured across multiple cameras. The reason we did this is to create the ultimate memory machine where you can go back and interactively fly around and then breathe video life into this system. What I'm going to do is give you an accelerated view of 30 minutes, again, of just life in the living room. That's me and my son on the floor. And there's video analytics that are tracking our movements. My son is leaving red ink, I'm leaving green ink. We're now on the couch looking out through the window at cars passing by, and finally my son playing in a walking toy by himself. Now we freeze the action, 30 minutes. We turn time into the vertical axis, and we open up for a view of these interaction traces we've just left behind. And we see these amazing structures. These little knots of two colors of thread we call social hotspots. The spiral thread we call a solo hotspot. And we think that these affect the way language is learned. What we'd like to do is start understanding the interaction between these patterns and the language that my son is exposed to see if we can predict how the structure of when words are heard affects when they're learned. So in other words, the relationship between words and what they're about in the world. So here's how we're approaching this. In this video, again, my son is being traced out. He's leaving red ink behind, and there's our nanny by the door.
You want water?
All right. She offers water, and off go the two worms over to the kitchen to get water. And what we've done is use the word water to tag that moment, that bit of activity. And now we take the power of data and take every time my son ever heard the word water and the context he saw it in, and we use it to penetrate through the video and find every activity trace that co-occurred with the instance of water. And what this data leaves in its wake is a landscape. We call these wordscapes. This is the wordscape for the word water. And you can see most of the action is in the kitchen. That's where those big peaks are over to the left. And just for contrast, we can do this with any word. We can take the word buy as in goodbye. And we're now zoomed in over the entrance to the house, and we look and we find, as you'd expect, a contrast in the landscape where the word bye occurs much more in a structured way. So we're using these structures to start predicting the order of language acquisition, and that's sort of ongoing work now. In my lab, which we're peering into now at MIT, this is at the Media Lab, this has become my favorite way of videographing just about any space. Three of the key people in this project, Philip DeCamp, Ronnie Kubat, and Brandon Roy are pictured here. Philip has been a close collaborator on all the visualizations you're seeing. And Michael Fleischman was another PhD student in my lab who worked with me on this home video analysis. And he made the following observation, that just the way that we're analyzing how language connects to events which provide common ground for language, that same idea we can take out of your home, Deb, and we can apply it to the world of public media. And so our effort took an unexpected turn. Think of mass media as providing common ground. And you have the recipe for taking this idea to a whole new place. We've started analyzing television content using the same principles, analyzing event structure of a TV signal, episodes of shows, commercials, all of the components that make up the event structure. And we're now, with satellite dishes, pulling in and analyzing a good part of all the TV being watched in the United States. And you don't have to now go and instrument living rooms with microphones to get people's conversations. You just tune into publicly available social media feeds. So we're pulling in about 3 billion comments a month. And then the magic happens. You have the event structure, the common ground that the words are about coming out of the television feeds. You've got the conversations that are about those topics. And through semantic analysis, and this is actually real data you're looking at from our data, our processing. Each yellow line is showing a link being made between a comment in the wild and a piece of event structure coming out of the television signal. And the same idea now can be built up, and we get this wordscape, except now words are not assembled in my living room. Instead, the context, the common ground, the activities are the content on television that's driving the conversations. And so what we're seeing here, these skyscrapers now, are commentary that are linked to content on television. Same concept, but looking at communication dynamics in a very different sphere. So fundamentally, rather than, for example, measuring content based on how many people are watching, this gives us the basic data for looking at engagement properties of content. And just like we can look at feedback cycles and dynamics in a family, we can now open up the same concepts and look at much larger groups of people. This is a subset of data from our database, just 50,000 out of several million, and the social graph that connects them through publicly available sources. And if you put them on one plane, a second plane is where the content lives. So we have the programs and the sporting event.
Yes. So the rest. So basically, what we covered till now is the important part, and the rest of it basically it's a 1.5 hour video that if you're interested you can go to YouTube and definitely look at it, where it talks about everything. But that part that mostly we showed was the birth of the word and a language acquisition. That was basically the important part. So as you can see that how language and society goes hand in hand, and there are many research and many different pedagogies that are being tried. So yes. Yes, so I think yeah, that's my presentation. That's it for today. and we can go to any questions or any clarifications if required.
శశాంక్ గారు ఇప్పుడు కొన్ని ప్రశ్నలు తీసుకుందాం. ఉండయ్య గారు ప్లీజ్, ఏమైనా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నాయా? ఉండయ్య గారు ప్లీజ్ రెస్పాండ్.
సార్ మనకు ఒక క్వశ్చన్ అడిగారు సార్, హౌ కెన్ వి క్రియేట్ నేచురల్ లెర్నింగ్ ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ ఇన్ ది క్లాస్ రూమ్ అని మన ఒక చార్ట్ లో క్వశ్చన్ వచ్చారు సార్.
శశాంక్ గారు.
సో సార్ ఏంటంటే ఇప్పుడు న్యాచురల్ లెర్నింగ్ ఎన్వైరన్మెంట్ ఎలా విత్ రెస్పెక్ట్ టు లాంగ్వేజ్ ఇన్ సొసైటీ ఇన్ జనరల్ ఒక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇవ్వాలంటే, సో ఇప్పుడు మీకు మీకు అది గుర్తుంటుంది కదా సార్. I think there was a webinar session that happened, the second webinar that happened that Rafiq took on identifying your surroundings. So basically, for example, there is textbook lo there oka mention undi about some tree that is not that is not really there in for example palm tree or some coconut tree gurinchi chepte that is not available in nearby, and nobody has the child hasn't seen this. So the same concept second webinar identifying plants and animals near you lo edaithe use chesaro, so using the same concept can be applied to environmental sciences, and the same concept can also be applied to language classes as well. So so basically mostly name cheppedi entante like the immediate environment edaithe undo, through that words and everything can be picked up very quickly, and the same has been proven by research as well. Ippudu meer chuste the MIT research that is there. So how water anedi kitchen daggara pick up chesaru a pillodu, and then buy anedi door daggara. So similarly, so that is how we need to think about it. It's very subjective.
Unday garu, next question. Unday garu.
సార్
నెక్స్ట్ క్వశ్చన్.
సరే, లాంగ్వేజ్ అక్విజిషన్ అనేటువంటిది ముఖ్యంగా ప్రైమరీ దానికి మనము ఎలాంటి స్ట్రాటజీస్ ఏమైనా చెప్తే బాగుంటుందేమో అని, ప్రైమరీ క్లాస్ లో లాంగ్వేజ్ అక్విజిషన్.
ఓకే, శశాంక్ గారు ప్లీజ్.
Sir, basically language ante like the second language acquisition gurinchi maatladutunnama, or like a foreign language. Foreign language ante mana context lo like will be English. So then so okay fine, I'll respond to both. And so sir entante mana okay ఇది చాలా కొంచెం I don't know, it's a bit technical, but I'll just say that మన సెంటెన్స్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఏదైతే ఉందో సార్, జస్ట్ ఇది బికాజ్ ఇట్స్ a very vast topic, I'll try to explain it in brief. మన సెంటెన్స్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఏదైతే ఉందో for Indian languages, the sentence structure is similar, ఎందుకంటే the roots of all the root is the same. So దానివల్ల సెకండ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ if it is an Indian language, దాన్ని పికప్ చేయడం won't be like that tough. So you can there is in general normal translation work will basic translation work will do, but sir, when it comes to English adentante koncham that's a very foreign language, and దాంట్లో కొంచెం సెంటెన్స్ స్ట్రక్చర్ కూడా చేంజ్ అయిపోతుంది. లైక్ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ సబ్జెక్ట్ తెలుగులో చెప్పాలంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ హిందీలో కూడా చూస్తే రామ్ ఖానా ఖాతా హై or రామ్ అన్నం తింటాడు. So it's like that if you can see the subject, the verb and the object. Ram is the subject, tindam is the verb, and then annam is the object. So you can see how that interplay is. But when it comes to English, it's like Ram eats food. So this is like a very basic example. This can be taught, but when it comes to conversational level, because of the foreign nature and the different root of the language, that really needs more practice. So that is like you need to try out different strategies to teach a foreign language, and it takes much more effort. And it's the source is depends the source code. The source code of both is different, so that's why like I like don't have a definitive strategy for this, but we'll have to like keep on working.
Sir, one more.
బాలమురళి గారు.
Sir, one more, sir.
ఓకే.
సార్ ఈ లాంగ్వేజ్ అక్విజిషన్ కోసము టీచర్ లో ఎలాంటి మార్పు రావాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది, టీచర్ ఎలా తయారైతే బాగుంటుంది అనేటువంటి ఒకటి మీ అనుభవాలను చెప్పండి.
Okay. Yes, sir. So so basically, sir, recently I got worked as I had basically worked with the urban migrant children, and who came in the context of Delhi, and then me with my friend, we had visited the school, and then in that school where we were doing our research project, that and then the paper also recently got published. You can look it up in Google Scholar. So in that thing, that in that particular dantlo me main chusamante, there was a child from there was a child from I think UP or Bihar that was there, and then ఆ పర్టికులర్ టైంలో మేము ఎక్కడైతే ఉన్నామో హిందీ క్లాస్ జరుగుతున్నది. ఇంకా సంథింగ్ హ్యాపెండ్ అండ్ ద చైల్డ్ సెడ్ దుయి ఇన్ హిస్ హోమ్ లాంగ్వేజ్. సో తర్వాత ద టీచర్ did not respect what the child said, and then in a very rude manner dismissed and said that దుయి nahi hota, do hota hai. సో దానివల్ల ఏమైందంటే ఇప్పుడు మీరు చూస్తే చైల్డ్ ఒక కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ కూడా హర్ట్ అయింది. అండ్ దెన్ దిస్ వాజ్ నాట్ ఐ థింక్ ఇట్ వాస్ 4th స్టాండర్డ్. సో దానివల్ల ఏమైందంటే ఆ చైల్డ్ కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ కూడా కంప్లీట్లీ got shattered, and then kind of a doubt కూడా like seeped in. So you can see like from like just a small incident, like not only cognition level లో also కొంచెం psychological కూడా చాలా ఎఫెక్ట్ అయి ఉంటుంది. సో దట్స్ వై ఇప్పుడు కూడా మనం చూస్తే సోషియో ఎమోషనల్ లెర్నింగ్ కి కూడా చాలా ఎంఫసిస్ ఇస్తున్నారు. So basically, to answer your question, that sir, in general, the teacher just needs to respect whatever the child is saying at the primary level, and then through that, how the teacher can tackle it, and then how teacher can take that child to the targeted language is what I think.
Right. Thank you.
బాలమురళి గారు.
Sir, good morning to all, sir. Very potential information is provided, sir, in today's class. Here one question, sir. English medium instruction is being implemented, sir, in our schools. As you clearly stated in ecological system theory and some immersion strategy through one video, sir. It's very nice, sir. Immersion, that is very important. Good exposure to language is essential for picking up a language by the students, and the language is essential for knowledge construction. These things are very helpful to all our student teachers, sir. They implement this. In this context, sir, as a school, I think all the teachers should take some strategies.
శశాంక్ గారు, ప్లీజ్. వీడియో మ్యూట్ అయింది.
Sir, I couldn't hear what Balamurali sir was saying.
ఓకే, త్రివేణి మ్యామ్ ఏమైనా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నాయా? త్రివేణి మేడం. త్రివేణి మేడం, ప్లీజ్ రెస్పాండ్. ఓకే, శశాంక్ పరిగి.
హలో సార్, నమస్తే సార్. సార్ నమస్తే సార్. హలో సార్. సార్ ఫస్ట్ చూసిన వీడియోలో అమెరికన్ స్కాలర్ చెప్పారు కదా. హలో
వింటున్నాం, చెప్పండి.
సార్ సార్ ఆ వీడియో ప్రకారంగా పరిసరాల ద్వారా, స్పర్శల ద్వారా, చర్యల ద్వారా, కృత్యాల ద్వారా పిల్లవాడు విని నేర్చుకుంటాడు భాషను అనేది. ఆ భాషను అంటే రకరకాల మాండలికాలలో మన తరగతి గదిలోకి వచ్చేటప్పుడు పిల్లవాడు నేర్చుకొని వస్తాడు. మరి దాన్ని ఒక సిస్టమేటిక్గా, ఒక పద్ధతిగా మనము తరగతి గదిలో మార్చాలనే వీడియో ఉంటే ఇంకా బాగుండేది. అంటే మన పాఠ్యాంశాలకు తగినట్టుగా పిల్లవాడి భాషను ఎలా మార్చుకోవాలి, అనేక రకాల పిల్లలు మన తరగతి గదిలోకి వస్తుంటారు. అలాంటి వీడియో కూడా చూపిస్తే బాగుండేది అనిపించింది సార్. క్వశ్చన్స్ ఏమీ లేవు ఇంకా. అలాగే సామాజిక సాంస్కృతిక నేపథ్యంలో కూడా అంటే పిల్లవాడి మార్పులను సూచిస్తూ ఉండే వీడియో ఉంటే ఇంకా బాగుండేది సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
ఓకే అమ్మా. శశాంక్ ప్లీజ్.
Sir, actually, I have a very good story that నేను ముందు ఒకటి చెప్పాను కదా, ప్రొఫెసర్ మ్యాక్సిన్ అని. there is a professor, she's an American scholar working for almost 2 to 3 decades. So నేను actually when I was in her class, so I asked the same question to her that ma'am, 2 questions basically. మీరు అడిగింది ఒకటి, and then in general ఇప్పుడు ఇంగ్లీష్ ని కూడా ఎలా టీచ్ చేయాలో. So tana response actually really humbled me and really completely took me by surprise. So what she said was that she said her words were exactly that, Shashank, I'm searching for this answer for the last 30 years. So whenever you get the answer, please also tell me. So the same thing I'll tell you that even so based on that, like such a senior scholar, she's also like put almost 30 years of her life into finding the answer to it. So it's a language, it's really, we don't have a simple strategies like we have in maths or science. It's a very complex thing. So atlanti video kuda I don't think so, like I'll try to search for it, but as far as my knowledge goes right now, atlanti videos in general aithe evaru ippudaka aithe teeledu ani నాకు తెలుసు మ్యామ్.
ఓకే శశాంక్ గారు ఇప్పటి వరకు లాంగ్వేజ్ డెవలప్మెంట్ అనేది ఎలా జరుగుతుంది అనేటటువంటిది చెప్పడానికి ప్రయత్నం చేశారు. భాష అనేది చాలా విశాలమైనటువంటిది కాబట్టి 1 గంటలో లాంగ్వేజ్ డెవలప్మెంట్ మొత్తం చెప్పడం చాలా కష్టమైంది. కాబట్టి ముందుగా ఆయన స్లైడ్స్ చూపిస్తున్నప్పుడు భాష, లాంగ్వేజ్ అనేటటువంటిది ఇల్లు మరియు ఇంటి పరిసరాలు, తర్వాత ఇంటి పరిసరాల్లో ఉండేటువంటి ఇన్ఫార్మల్ ఏజెన్సీస్ నుంచి తర్వాత ఫార్మల్ ఏజెన్సీస్కి ఎలా నేర్చుకుంటారు అనేటటువంటిది చెబుతూ, ముఖ్యంగా ఇంటిలో ఎలా నేర్చుకుంటారు అనే దానిపైనే కాన్సన్ట్రేట్ చేసి దానికి సంబంధించినటువంటి వీడియోస్ ద్వారా మనకు చక్కగా ప్రదర్శించడానికి ప్రయత్నం చేశాడు. ఆ వీడియోస్ చూస్తే మనకు చాలా మట్టుకు అర్థమవుతుంది. పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ అడిగినటువంటి ప్రశ్నల లోపల ఒకే క్లాస్ లోపల లాంగ్వేజ్ ఫార్మల్ గా ఎలా నేర్చుకుంటారనే ప్రశ్న కూడా అడగడం జరిగింది. ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఈ చిన్న సమయంలో చెప్పడం చాలా ఇబ్బందిగా ఉంటుంది. కాబట్టి ఆ 2 వీడియోస్ ద్వారా మనం ఇంకా దాన్ని చాలా సార్లు చూసినట్టయితే భాషకు సంబంధించినటువంటి జ్ఞానం మనకి అర్థమవుతుంది. తప్పకుండా ఆ వీడియోస్ పూర్తిగా చూసి మీరు దాని ద్వారా చాలా విషయాలు నేర్చుకుని మీకు మీ ఉపాధ్యాయ బోధనలో ఉపయోగపడుతుందని ఆశిస్తున్నాం. థ్యాంక్ యూ శశాంక్ గారు. అలాగే థ్యాంక్ యూ ముండయ్య గారు, బాలమురళి గారు, త్రివేణి మేడం అండ్ విద్యాసాగర్ గారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ. రేపటి వెబినార్ సెషన్ ఎర్లీ చైల్డ్హుడ్ కేర్ అండ్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ పైన ఉంటుంది. తప్పకుండా ఛాత్రోపాధ్యాయులందరూ కూడా దీన్ని సద్వినియోగం చేసుకోవాల్సిందిగా కోరుచున్నాం. థ్యాంక్ యూ.